For more than a decade, affordable housing has been a dominant issue in the public policy debate in Arlington County. Now, the phrase affordable housing is quite simple, but the stakes and dynamics of how this subject affects civic life in Arlington are anything but. Now, on VoiceBox this month, we'll break down the affordable housing question with a discussion with some of the most influential stakeholders working on this issue today. We're also joined by Mark Silverwood, who is the president of the Silverwood Companies. It's a real estate development company that operates multifamily housing. It also builds homes and has done planned communities in our area. And they have developed affordable housing units in Arlington, and they still operate them today. We also have Mark in the Silverwood Companies, which is not a nonprofit developer, who's also been engaged in the space of creating and maintaining affordable units in the county. Tell us a little bit about how that became a part of your company's portfolio, what you got out of it, and really what you see in terms of the future of for-profit developers in the affordable housing space.
Well, we started back in the late 90s doing affordable housing in a couple of different states, in West Virginia, in North Carolina, and in Virginia. And then I spent some time with the directors of housing in Arlington to see what were their really needs, where were they looking to place this kind of stuff, what neighborhoods did they want to serve. And there was quite a few different areas, and they had just started, they had some AHIF money. Back in those days, in the early 2000s, late 90s, you could use 4% tax credits, which was a much less capital for your project, and use tax-exempt bonds because the tax-exempt bonds were a lot lower than the interest rates. So if you married those two and some affordable housing investment money, you could buy and redevelop projects, such as the Marbella apartments we did down in Fort Myers Heights. We bought those for $44,000, and the full renovation was $78,000. Today,
Per unit.
Per unit. Excuse me.
Don't want to give anybody the impression that we're talking about minuscule dollars.
$78,000 per unit. Today, that same project is running around $200,000. Okay, so it's more than tripled to get that done. And the amount of affordable housing investment fund going into each project has more than doubled. So it went from a subsidy of about $10,000 a unit in those days to anywhere from $60,000 to a high of about $100,000. That's a lot of money to put a roof over somebody's head. And it will not stop because of the market forces. Washington, D.C. is the #1 market in the country. And so that's all for Class A and high investments. But that trickles down from the Class A, they get pushed out if it's too expensive, to the Bs and the Cs and the Ds. And when we started this back in the late 90s, there was no interest from the national corporations in C and D properties. But then they found out, oh, these things stay full all the time. So let's come in and buy them up. So what happened to be old 1952 brick stock buildings, really, really small units, became attractive to everybody. So we continued to build more projects in the county in different areas. Some had mixes of income from some at 40%, 50%, 60% at market rate, some at 75% at market, some with using the Section 8 housing, project-based housing. So it depended upon what the board wanted in the different neighborhoods. Over time, though, we watched the markets change. I watched the qualified allocation plan that the state writes to be a little bit more geared towards nonprofits. The home investment funds, the CDBG funds, those are all earmarked towards nonprofits. And I've watched all the for-profits pretty much step back from the industry, especially in Northern Virginia. This year, in Northern Virginia, there were 8 intention letters sent to VHDA on Friday. And that goes from Loudoun County down to Prince William, all over. And in the Fairfax, Arlington, 6 of the 8 were nonprofits. The only 2 were way out in the country, where you don't need as much subsidy and you can try to do that. So it has become more difficult for our company as a for-profit because we just can't access some of the dollars that the nonprofits. We did buy and renovate some other affordable housing projects that some of the syndicators were trying to sell. So after the year 10 and they've reaped the tax credit benefit of that, they want to move on, so we bought them. They're still affordable for another 19 years. We just recapitalized them and put our own private capital in along with new financing.
Okay.
I think part of what we have to understand is the importance of affordable housing, not just to our sense of a diverse community, but understand the linkages of affordable housing to the economic and business health of the community itself.
Yes, Mark.
I think one of the big points of the affordable housing in the old brick buildings down on the Pike that people don't really understand is that these buildings were built in '52. They're functionally obsolete by the time we come in to buy them. They have old systems. They cost a fortune. We have to put $32,000 to $50,000 a unit into them. They are typically run by landlords a lot of times in some of the old ones we have that allow overcrowding. Okay? So it wears out the systems. It wears out the people. When we come in with the affordable housing, low-income housing tax credit, we are governed by the federal government. We can only allow 60% of median income. You can allow 2 people in a 1-bedroom, 4 in a 2, and 6 in a 3. Any overcrowding, you have to evict the people. Okay? I would say that when we go to buy one of these properties, we see at least sometimes 50–60% overcrowding. Okay? So what happens is we come in, put in this program, which has got great financing. It's a huge tool for us to leverage. Okay? We have no other tools like this. But the bad part is they're over income, they're overcrowded. We typically retain 35% of the people. That's how many people on an average project for us are under 60% of median income, and the family's not overcrowded. Sometimes they might be aunts or uncles or mixed family, and they'll move into a couple of units and you save some of them. But that's one of the benefits and the curses of the low-income housing tax credit program.
Doctors?
Well, there is a basic understanding that there is a labor market in the metropolitan area that drives pretty much the demographics we have and the demand for housing, which ultimately drives the price of or defines the price of housing. We are at full employment in Arlington. We have an employment rate that's less than 5%. Whoever tries to start a business in Arlington will have to find a workforce. And in a community with full employment, you cannot find a workforce next to your business. You have to try to bring in this workforce from somewhere else. So you have to compete with others, and eventually you will offer higher wages, and eventually you will expect higher productivity. So more skilled, you're condemned to produce high-skilled, high-wage, more productive jobs. As a matter of fact, Northern Virginia is one of the job machines, the heartland of job creation right now in the metropolitan region.
I think when you look at some of the issues, one is that Arlington County created this mess. It got all the metros. It created these fantastic buildings. It created a great job base. Okay, the board and everybody, they did a great job at balancing the economy here. Washington has become a global city. It wasn't back in the early 90s. As it blossomed, the jobs came. We have the highest number of PhDs in the country in this region. Okay, so those people are renters by choice. A lot of them, they move in and out. They move to other global cities. So they want amenities, they get those amenities, and the price goes up. And those little old buildings get torn down because that's what the market wants. So if the county as a whole, the people that live here, want more diversity and want to keep this going, there's a couple of tools. It's dollars, it's political will, and it's density. So on the Columbia Pike, as we move forward towards getting a trolley or bus rapid transit, which is a very big investment, one of the things Dave was talking about, the other thing you do is, because you're not going to keep the people in the old brick buildings to subsidize this stuff forever, because it's not their job. They own real estate. They can do whatever they want. It's a free market society in Virginia. But if you create densities of 3 to 4 times what they are existing, that becomes, and you can tear those down, then you could build back that many more units. It's economically sound for a landowner to take that obligation on and provide a higher level of dedicated affordable housing coming back into a project. Because these old buildings have been around for 60 years, 70 years. They're just not there anymore, okay? So it's time to tear them down, build the new technology, the green, the LEEDs, the everything else that brings the cost down, and have that for the next 60 or 70 years, but create the more housing, because without that much more housing on the Pike, this trolley is serving what? okay? And I mean, that's part of the goal of the housing study, is to bring more people on and create some more balance there.
You know, the issues in Columbia Pike are really across the county. They're not just in South Arlington, Columbia Pike being an opportunity.
It's just very illustrative right now,
exactly.
Right?
But one of the things that's being studied there is, can there be density and other incentives trained into the form-based code itself so that it's interesting enough for for-profit or not-for-profit developers to develop properties or redevelop or preserve properties, the whole range, but including X percent of the units as affordable. It takes a lot of pretty careful analysis to figure out, well, what's the level of incentive that's required economically to make it work, and whether it's for-profit or for not-for-profit, the economics are really the same.
I think in this region, one thing is that when Washington woke up as an international city, the national developers came in and started buying real estate here like never before. Vornado, huge REIT, they own Crystal City. Avalon Bay, Archstone, name on and on and on and on. Those companies are not all located here. They don't believe in Arlington. They like Arlington because they make money,
right,
but they might be in Denver or Chicago or New York or something. So they may look at it differently than some of the older families that have been here. But to put it really simply, the market rate rental is affordable to somebody from about 85% to maybe 95% of area median income today. If you're going to take a rent that's up here and you want to rent it to somebody who's down here at 60, somebody's got to pay that mortgage. And the appreciation rate on the 60% is about 2.8 to 3.2% a year. And historically, over 25 years in the market, it's 4.5%. So if you have a fiduciary responsibility to a corporation to make it the most profitable as you can, you've got to look at this and figure out how you do it. And because we are a Dillon-ruled state, you can't force anyone to do that. So as a community, if Arlington wants to continue to support a balanced community with affordable housing and diversity, it's going to come out of the pocket of the Arlingtonians.
And with that, we're going to have to close this conversation, which could go on for a much longer time. Mark and Nina, I apologize for not giving you a chance to make a final word, but this is by no means the last of a conversation about affordable housing, and I'm going to make a very public plea to have all five of you back again, because there's so much more to talk about with this issue. Thank you all for watching, and thank you for the studio audience for your great questions. I'm Christian Dorsey, and this has been VoiceBox, and we'll see you next time.